It's what you hearing, listen. It's what you hearing, listen. It's what you hearing, listen.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Cropper
X gon'
here.
give it to you. Fuck, wait for you to get it on your own. X gon' deliver to you. Knock, knock, open up the door. It's real. With the non-stop pop out the stage.
Let's talk about somebody that was talking about Ayn Rand. A MGTOW dude named Plain Sight. He's an objectivist. I've seen him around on the place. Let's see. He says he used to be an objectivist. He says he's read her books. He's MGTOW though. So I did a video saying that MGTOW just need to get together with objectivists and they could figure their shit out. Now this guy sees what's going on in society around us and sees that MGTOW is actually addressing the real stuff in society around us. Right? Ayn Rand didn't do that, did she? She just had a floating philosophy, didn't she? What kind of philosophy? A gynocentric philosophy, a vagina-worshipping philosophy. Of course she's a woman. Now, I did say in a video just earlier today that because men build every building, and they build it either to house a woman or to increase their wealth and status so that they can attract more and more beautiful and younger and better women on some measure. Therefore, all buildings that are built in some way to raise men's stature with women or to house the women that they've chosen. Since all buildings are built for that purpose, all buildings are basically worshiping women. Okay, that's what I said earlier today. Now, I didn't know I was going to have to face this guy a few hours later. Here's what he says, and we're going to start at 8:07, but then we're going to go back. And so, this is too juicy, I wanted to start with it.
She once said, it is masculine to deal with reality, and it is feminine to deal with men.
Alright, it's masculine to deal with reality, it is feminine to deal with men. Now, let's look at it. Let's just say humans are 250,000 years since we split off. Let's say 100,000, doesn't matter. And we've had farming for 5,000 or 10,000. Horticulture for 20,000. Right? So for a lot of our history, we were doing hunting, gathering, caveman stuff. For a lot of our history. And women were not the strong, running around hunters. Women were protected in some sort of little hut or fort or village, and the men went out from there and hunted and came back. Okay, we know that that's the case because that's how it still is the case. Women and children stay, men go out in danger. Now let's talk for 1 second about why that's the case. If a woman were to go out, and let's say you've got a small hunter-gatherer band with 20, why is that going in the background? You've got a small hunter-gatherer band with 20 people and 10 children, right? And 10 of them are women and 10 are men. So you got 10 hunters, some are fast and strong, some are young, some are stupid, some are old. And you got 10 women. Now some of them are old, they've already had enough kids. And some of them are 2, 3, or 5 years, or 8, or 7, or 9 years away from having kids. So you've only got maybe 5 women, or 3 women in your little band that are able to bear children any given year. Now if one of those women dies, that's going to cost your group. If one of those women is bored with the men around her and doesn't want to have sex, that's going to cost the group. Alright? So she is going to give it up. She's going to give it up to the man with the most authority and the cutest or the whatever. There's going to be some method that gets her to give it up, but she's going to in these ancient societies. There's going to be some reason. And if not, that comes at a tremendous cost to their society because you just can't replace those women. There's only 3 or 5 of them or something. However, let us say that one of the men on the hunting trip gets killed. What's happened to our little group? Nothing, right? One of the other men can do whatever was going to happen that night or any other night, some night, whatever. That man is not... See, you can't replace the women. The women possess a very amazing magical instrument called a vagina. It doesn't actually do anything magical except to reproduce humans, right? So, now, why should we be concerned with that? Well, no particular reason except that everybody on Earth alive today is the offspring of a man who was kind of rather concerned with getting him some vagina, right? Every single man alive on the planet today, every person alive on the planet today, even if you're gay, your dad liked to get him some vagina. Alright? That's why the human race exists, in a very carnal sense. Now there's a little poem I'll give you. Some of you have heard this before. I apologize if you're bored with it by now. This little poem tells you just why evolution has dumped you off here and what you're doing. Now you're here. You can choose to take part in the evolution game or not. You're a conscious entity. You're not driven by instinct like animals. You have consciousness. So you're here and you can decide what to do with it. But you have been dropped here by evolution. Okay, here's the poem, which I wrote. If happiness is difficult obtained, recall the reason humans are so strained. As Darwin pointed out, we are evolved to reproduce. No further problem solved. Right? They're not looking to solve any further problem when they get the penis and the vagina together, except to get that to happen. Once that happens, you're off to the races. You've got lots of things then that kick into place. You've got the love of the mother. You've got in the society shunning the father if he doesn't support his own children. You've got the society shunning the mother if she has children that don't look like the father. So you've got lots of things that kick in after you start having the children. But nature just wants you to get that pee-pee and vagina together and have that happen, right? That's the real drive, just to get that to occur, and then you can work out the rest. So happiness is difficult obtained because Darwin doesn't care what we do, or evolution doesn't care what we do, as long as we get that pee-pee and vagina together very, very frequently. Alright? Now, happiness is realizing how to actually live in this world. Okay? The pee-pee vagina thing just keeps humans chugging along. But how to be happy is the difference between sub-Saharan Africa and the United States of America, or Soviet Russia and the United States of America, or Nazi Germany and the United States of America. That's the difference between just chugging along and reproducing on the one hand, and valuing happiness as the purpose of your life on the other hand. So that's what philosophy is for. Anybody can chug along and have sex and mate. That's built right into the machinery when we're born. And that's why religions are so obsessed with sex. They are obsessed with it. Religions try to stultify the mind. They try to shut down the mind. They try to ruin the mind. And they do. They shut it down. They shut it down. They ruin it. But these damn things called the genitals grow. Every single person gets a set. And they have to deal with those. So religions become obsessive about genitals because they can't control their growth and the nature of them. They can stunt and stultify the mind, but those damn genitals, and so they do end up doing things like cutting them off, don't they? Because they're obsessed with it. Now, I don't know if I've gotten slightly off the subject. Let's see, I'll let him say a little more here. I'm afraid we should probably go to the beginning of the video now.
You say. And I think that's very interesting. That's actually pretty insightful. I would actually interpret that as a euphemism for... It is masculine...
Okay, the euphemism for it's feminine to control men or manipulate men, and it's masculine to manipulate nature, right? And that's a euphemism for what?
For it is masculine to exploit nature and manipulate nature to survive, and it is feminine to exploit men to survive, right? That's how I would interpret it. And Ayn Rand herself, if you look at her life, she married...
Now he goes off into the affair. I'll just say about the affair or whatever. lots of people have affairs. You've got to do better than that. If you obsess over somebody having an affair, I'm not impressed. Did they write a philosophy? Did they write several novels? Did they write something quite impressive? Yeah, but they had an affair. Oh, okay, well, you're a junk thinker. Now, backing up a bit, let's just let him say it and see if we want to own it.
Right? That's how I would interpret it.
Oh, I didn't go
And Ayn Rand
back.
herself, if you look at her life,
Didn't go back far.
masculine, and
Okay.
she once said, it is masculine to deal with reality, and it is feminine to deal with men.
Now, men quite want it that way, right? They want to, especially the productive alpha males that are out there and producing stuff and creating stuff. Men want to be able to go out and get rich and then take that wealth and splash it around a bit, get a car, a house, or whatever, and then go to a dinner party and let it be known who they are, and then start hitting on the pretty young girls. That's quite how men like it, okay? So, and the girls rather like the situation. So MGTOW complaining about it is not going to get very far. Get your philosophy together and change the society, change the culture. That's the only answer. We're going to have to roll back postmodernism and feminism. That's the only answer. But women have vaginas. Those are very valuable things. They can produce 5 to 10 humans. Men have penises. They can produce thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of humans. So one man can replace another man easily, very easily. Women are irreplaceable. Here's another scenario for you, ladies and gentlemen. 99% of men die tomorrow of some terrible disease that affects only men, and only 1% of them survive. What happens? Well, that 1% of women, or 1% of men that are left, get really busy, don't they? They now have 100 women each, or something like this. Now, what if the opposite happened? What if 99% of women died? Human society would be wiped out. We'd have to start over at caveman levels and rebuild slowly over thousands and millions of years. Millions, maybe not millions. Okay? So that's the difference between men and women. Men are irreplaceable. Men have no real value as long as there's another man there. As long as there are a few other men there, one given man is not important in the metaphysical, large metaphysical sense, to our genes, to our species, to Darwin. If you want to say, maybe I should say to Darwin. As far as Darwin is concerned, we only need a few men around. The women, however, we need every single one of them we can get. Okay? So, and in fact, what we should do, if we're in caveman days, we should take our youngest women, 7, 9, something like this, and trade them to the nearby village for a 14 or 18-year-old that can start breeding immediately. And that's exactly what they did, wasn't it? To just give themselves a little boost in their population and age advantage. So, and of course, do you trade men? Do societies trade men back and forth? They trade women, of course. They do not trade men. What if you traded men and you brought in a man? And what is that man going to do? He's either going to be a wretched slave, in which case why would he want to come over to your group? Or he might take over, possibly, in which case why would you want him to come over? Why would you want him to come over and be the leader? So of course groups didn't trade men, groups traded women. Because women are the really important commodity to humans, men are really not that important. If there are two commodities in Darwinian evolution, just two commodities, men and women. Women are the important commodity, men are dispensable. Okay? If Ayn Rand's philosophy takes account of reality, then it will tend to notice that fact somewhere at some point. Alright, shall we begin?
What's going on? Once in a while, in MGTOW circles, I hear the name Ayn Rand mentioned, usually in a favorable light. Now, there's some good things about Ayn Rand, but there's also some problems with Ayn Rand, which ultimately make her a gynocentric philosophy. And so I'm basically making this video to make you aware of the problems with Ayn Rand's philosophy. And hopefully you'll think twice before supporting it. Now, what's good about Ayn Rand's philosophy is she's in favor of reason and individual rights and individual responsibility. She's in favor of capitalism and free markets and limited government. And these are all good things. She's even against feminism. She spoke out against feminism. But there's some problems with her philosophy. And the root philosophic problem that her philosophy, which she called Objectivism, is that she was adamantly in favor of the blank slate. She was adamantly against any form of instinct or any form of evolved psychological adaptations. For example,
Now, she said man has no instinct because that means automatic knowledge. So, by her definition of automatic knowledge, man has no instincts. Now, do you flinch when you see a spider? And now, if the things that you're going to have to define as instinct, Ayn Rand won't give you instinct because she's going to point to humans building houses and say that doesn't happen automatically, even though birds build nests automatically. Alright, so she's not going to give you instinct, and you're going to come back and you're going to find something that humans do automatically, you think. And you're going to say instinct, and Ayn Rand is going to say something like reflex or something like that. It's not automatic knowledge. Now, animals have automatic knowledge, which, if it fails, they die. Animals are so stupid, you can do things like run a bunch of them over the edge of a cliff and they will kill each other. So animals, you're right, humans could herd over the edge of a cliff too, it's true. But animals are so stupid, all you have to do is figure out what their instincts are and work around them and kill them. That's what hunters do. So automatic knowledge is not really very good. A better type of brain has some built-in drives and desires, but doesn't have automatized knowledge. It updates its knowledge constantly through reason. And that's what we have. And over time we build an amazing subconscious if we focus on it, or it just becomes a cobbled together mess if we just allow random things to go in there. Now, I don't know if I'm really replying to him, but I don't know if he's really saying something substantive to reply to here.
Of instinct.
Oh, yeah, instinct and stuff. Okay. Yeah, anything that you choose to show as instinct is going to be some weird thing like a reflex or something. It's not going to be, you know, what house do we build through instinct? So you're not going to get any knowledge for us called instinct. Give me an example. I mean, every one you give is going to be it doesn't rise to the level of what we call instincts in animals, is what I guess I'm trying to say, huh? Instincts in humans that you would call an instinct is not the level of instincts in animals that have automatized ways of doing things. Okay.
Form of evolved psychological adaptations. For example, if you claim that men are better than women at math, at 3D spatial reasoning, at reading maps.
See, math, 3D spatial reasoning, and reading maps are a way to work with our reality. They aren't automated knowledge about our reality. That's Ayn Rand's point, is that when you turn that corner and you're able to step back from your knowledge and say, what's a better way to do this than what I had thought should do? Because animals don't even think that they should do it, they just do it. They just have a program that they do. Like when you startle a deer, it just runs. It doesn't sit and think about whether or not it should run, or whether or not its life is valuable enough to run anyway, or whether or not anything matters. It doesn't contemplate it. It just automatically bolts. Okay? So...
Show them data where women are injected with testosterone and they become better at reading maps. Objectivists will completely deny...
Alright. Spatial temporal reasoning's better in men. Why would that be the case? Because women always sat at home in camps. Alright? Here's another thing, ladies and gentlemen. Listen to this. This is going to be terrible. Some of you are going to squirm in your seats. Listen to this terrible thing. Virtually every female reproduces. Virtually every single one. Now, ultimately, that leads to a flattening or deadening of the information in their IQ. Their IQ just averages out because every single one of them is reproducing. And so their genes just average out, their IQ averages out. Another way I think that is forced is that stupid women kill their children in one way or another through neglect or something. And medium stupid women kill some of their children some of the time. And so it takes a woman of average intelligence to keep her kids alive. And so women tend to have average intelligence. Men, on the other hand, some reproduce, some don't. Some have a lot of kids with different women. Some have kids with only one woman. Some have no kids at all. Some never even get with a woman. Okay? Huge, huge differences with men. Every single woman gets pushed into sexual service, if you see what I'm saying. Not every single one, but virtually. I mean, virtually. But it is not the case for men. In order to get into sexual service, men have to have something or do something or be something, right? You have to have some value you offer to women in order to get access to the magical reproduction box, right? Now, the rewards and incentives built into this, you can say, well, what's the ultimate value of it? Just the production of the species, that's all. Just getting more humans so that they can do the same thing again. That's all. Now, if you doubt the production of that, no, then you would be like this guy here. Who do we got here? David Benatar. If you say, well, why should we exist at all? Well, he says, it's never to have been. The harm of coming into existence. But we're not going to get off onto that right now.
It's just completely unacceptable for the objectivist. And of course, objectivists will also deny any form of mating strategies. You know, any form of mating strategies that females follow or males follow, right? It's okay for animals to have instincts, but the idea that humans have instincts is...
Well, now he just said mating strategies, instincts. Which one is it? Which one is it? Can you give an example of something?
Just
and any example you do give, it's not going to be instincts, right? Just because we have a biochemical response to something doesn't mean we have automated knowledge, which is all that animals have. Now, animals are pretty amazing. They have a pretty complex brain, but they just work on automated knowledge. They can't sit back and think consciously about themselves in the situation. You can teach animals things, can't you? But still, they're not sitting back and considering themselves in the situation. They're not removing themselves from the situation mentally and considering themselves as an entity. They take themselves for granted. And that's the thing about a conscious mind that doesn't run on instinct, is it doesn't take itself for granted. It's able to remove itself from itself and consider itself as an object.
Rejected out of hand by Ayn Rand's philosophy. And this leads to all kinds of subtle, blue pill, and gynocentric results. So I was an objectivist for many years. I was involved in the objectivist student club at the university. I was one of the officers. I went to several objectivist conferences, and I read pretty much all of Ayn Rand's books multiple times. And my original Facebook account had hundreds of friends, most of them objectivists. Most objectivists are, in fact, traditional conservatives.
Some Democrats are sneaking in, huh? Oh, there are some Democrats. I had an interaction earlier, which I will just show you guys. There we go. Now then. What should be our priority? Open borders or voluntary taxation? Now, I think it's obvious that we shouldn't allow a big flood of people in, right? Because we're paying massive amounts for them. The government is paying gargantuan quantities of money for every single individual person that comes in. They're giving them a huge basket of goodies. So we should change that first, okay? Now, here's his response when I say, how is open borders reasonable? He says, most general equilibrium models predict per capita output would be 50 to 200% higher under open borders. So we'll be more productive. Who will be more productive? The new people who come in. All right. Now I say, have you heard of Sweden? I'm aware of many people citing individual stories without anything resembling quantitative data to state blithely that rising immigration has turned Stockholm into the rape capital of the world. He's aware that people are citing these bizarre things. Okay. So that's what these people have to believe, ladies and gentlemen. If you think open borders is lovely, if you think it's just logical, you are a floating Platonist. You are not looking at the facts in the world around us today. The fact there are hordes of terrible socialistic rape-mongering Muslims invading Europe had ought to make you think twice about open borders, but this guy here just dismisses all that. So I quote Quillette, which is on the left. It's time for Sweden to admit explosions. I don't know if it's on the left. Maybe it's not. Who knows? And then I quote Wikipedia. All right? And then I quote Vice, showing that Vice is talking about it. They're trying to debunk it. And they mention there are 60 no-go zones in Sweden. Oh, but the no-go zones really aren't that bad. Oh, okay. Well, ambulances pull up to a place where there are people bleeding. And the crowd tells the ambulance who to take and who to leave. How would you like to be one of the people left bleeding there on the sidewalk with them still beating and kicking you? And the ambulance just leaves, and the police don't come, and if they do, they withdraw very quickly because otherwise they would incite the crowd. Alright, so that's no-go zones. That's what's happening in Sweden. It's falling apart. A list of grenade attacks in Sweden. Alright, now, are most objectivists on the left or the right? I don't know, but I'm sure glad that we have objectivists on the left, too. These leftivists. Because that means we are in both sides of the party. And that's good. If we were all from the right, that would be bad. I don't know what that would mean, but it seems not to be the case. It seems there are some objectivists who are on the left, so it's not true that they're all from the right.
Reject feminism, which is good, but then they fall into the conservative trap, the tradcon trap, right? As we know, feminism and traditional conservatives are actually two sides of the same gynocentric coin. So most objectivist men are married or want to get married. A lot of them are okay with misandric laws, with gynocentric laws. And I actually dropped the objectivist label over these issues. The last straw I had was I was arguing with this objectivist.
We're okay with gynocentric laws? Now, so maybe he's arguing with some objectivist who's confused about something, but objective law in an objective society would be very, very different from the postmodern influenced, feminist-influenced garbage we have today. So I can't imagine if you dropped objectivism because you talked to some knucklehead who couldn't defend the laws or tried to defend the laws that are on the books today. That's a stupid reason for dropping objectivism.
And I was trying to explain to him how laws regarding child support favor women and hurt men. For a man, consenting to have sex is basically agreeing to 18 years of slavery in the form of child support. But for a woman, consenting to sex is not consenting to motherhood. Women have all kinds of contraceptives. Women can abort. Women can drop off the baby. And
women have all kinds of contraceptives has been interpreted as unfair, right? Why don't men have any contraceptives? All they have is the condom. Why don't they have the pill? Why do women have all these different things? Women get their tubes tied. Women get this and that. Why do men just have the condom? Why is it women's responsibility to actually prevent the pregnancy, not the man's? Well, why indeed? Because the woman's the one who really, really needs to be worried about it, right? Isn't she the one with the most at stake? Of course, objectively, she ought to be most worried about it. Now, as for what you're going to do about these gynocentric laws, I don't really know. I think in the future, because most people are not going to be philosophers, I think that people are going to react to women as slightly harmless and slightly helpless. Women are not regarded as particularly dangerous. Even if they're involved in a crime, it's usually because they're with a man who's doing the crime. And so women usually get lower crime sentences, and usually afterwards, if they're found committing another crime, it's usually because they're with another man. So these are facts which hold true. We know of these things in our justice system. We know of these patterns. So women are less dangerous. That's an objective fact. Men are more dangerous. Women are in control of the magical love box, and men have to try to get control of it. That shapes our whole society.
The motherhood. Women have all kinds of contraceptives. Women can abort. Women can drop off the baby at these. They have these anonymous baby drop-off boxes in, I think, Kansas or something. It's like this new thing.
Yeah, we're not going to punish a person with a vagina if we can get away with it, because they're just not that dangerous. And we would much rather them go about their life and continue doing their thing and using their vagina to make more babies. That's like the harmlessness and helplessness of women. That is the genetic message. Whatever a woman does, just let her apologize and go about her way and continue using her vagina to make more babies. That's the genetic message. You can quote me out of context and make me sound terrible if you want. I don't care. I'll defend it.
Rolling out. Women can drop off babies at fire stations. Women can give up babies at adoption agencies. Women can sign a legal document that says, "I give up all rights and responsibilities as the mother." But the man can't, right? The man can't force the woman to have an abortion. The man can't sign a document that says he gives up all right. Men go to jail if they can't pay child support.
So imagine 10 guys out in the tribe, and one of them says to another, "You're such a jerk, George, you haven't been supporting your kid over at the hut over there." And George says, "Screw her. I came on the floor, she wiped it up and used it. I didn't, that was her fault." Right? She should be punished. Okay? You propose this. Now, none of those guys are going to go for that. They're going to say, "Well, look, if you're not going to go talk to her tonight, I'm going to go talk to her tonight. So no, we're not going to punish her. One of us is going to go make friends with her." And that's how it goes, okay? That's how society is going to be. Women aren't a threat. You might think that their behavior is deplorable, but men are the ones that are violent and are a threat, just purely statistically speaking. Women do commit murder. Women do beat people up, particularly lesbians. The amount of domestic violence among lesbians is astronomical. Of course, you never hear about that. All you hear about is transgender this, transgender that. They ought to do something about domestic violence among lesbians. It is like 8 or 10 times the rate of that among hetero couples. Okay, back to the video.
That doesn't happen to women. And I was trying to explain to this, and this objectivist guy, all he could say was, "Well, if you like her enough to stick your dick in her, you should take responsibility." That's all he could say. And
whether or not that's a justification, I don't know, but you're not going to get people to pass laws that victimize women or punish women. And if you do turn that corner and make it a society where women are at fault for the fact that they've been born with the magical reproduction box between their legs, and you punish them for that, then your society's going to look a lot like Islam, whatever shape it takes. So I don't think that's a road you want to go down, although this guy seems to want to go down that road. He's angry at women for having the power to use their vajayjays any way they want, and men have to get a job and support them. Well, yeah, we're going to have to change society. This is a garbage way for it to be, but I'm just warning you that it's not going to be that different when it changes.
realize that objectivists, they're very much in favor of reason and logic, and not thinking using emotions. They're very cautious. They're very careful when it comes to emotions. They know that emotions can lead you down the wrong path, and they're pretty good for the most part in sticking to this. But when it comes to women, they just have this what I call a cognitive blind spot, where they don't realize they're doing it, but they're giving completely different standards for men and women. Right? Objectivism is.
Are there different? Are men and women different? No, they're identical. Oh, well then we should treat them the same. No, if there are any differences between men and women, then we should treat them differently. However, whatever the differences are. If men tend to be braver and stronger and better at reading maps, then we should probably take that into account. And if women don't understand tools as well, then we should probably take that into account. All right? When we deal with people in the real life, in our real world. And we wouldn't be racist to do so, which I know some leftard out there would think that you'd be racist if you judged a woman as being unable to deal with tools. But, fact is, men obsess with tools. They obsess over them. And women really don't care. They think tools are doohickeys and gadgets, and they don't want to know about them by and large. And when they do get a tool, they usually use it for something other than what the man has designed it for. I've seen it.
To be this individualistic philosophy. You're not supposed to judge people based on race. You're not supposed to judge people based on gender. You're supposed to judge people based on individuals. Okay, but apparently individual men are different than individual women. I'll give you a note.
Yeah. Did you not see that when you were walking around in society? Didn't you notice that?
Example, Don Watkins. He's a fellow at the Ayn Rand Institute. He writes books and gives lectures about the welfare state. And he was giving this lecture, arguing against the welfare state. And just in the middle of the lecture somewhere, he just casually mentioned, oh yeah, if you're a man and you need money, you shouldn't go for the government. You shouldn't ask the government for handouts. You should get a job. Likewise.
Well, if he's an objectivist, then he's against anybody going to the government for a handout at all. So I don't know. I would have to have the exact quote. This guy's probably taking it wildly out of context and misreading it or something like that.
Handouts, you should get a job. Likewise, if you're a woman, you shouldn't ask for handouts either. You should find a man to support you, to take care of you.
Oh, okay, yeah. You should find a man to support you. Well, what if you say you should go out and get a job? Well, then who's going to take care of the kids? Hire somebody to do it. Well, maybe your job is going to be to go take care of somebody's kids then. How much sense does that make? Why should you go get a job so that you can pay someone to take care of your kids, and their job is going to be to take care of your kids? Why don't you do that job if that's a job that needs to be done? That's the woman's job.
And it's like, okay, so it's wrong for a woman to leech off the government, but it's okay for a woman to leech off a man?
Leech off isn't the case, is it? It's marriage. It's love, right? That's what it is. Now, it's not easy. If happiness is difficult to obtain, recall the reason humans are so strained. As Darwin pointed out, we are evolved to reproduce. No further problem solved. If you want to be happy during all of this, I suggest you read Ayn Rand and try really hard to practice it. Read your Aristotle, particularly his Ethics. Some of the other stuff's quite a mess. The Ethics is very good. And that'll help you in life. It will help you. And read facts, too. Spend less time with SpongeBob SquarePants and more learning about ancient Greece and Rome. That's how you seek happiness in life. Try to understand the world around you. But men are the ones that go out and conquer the world. And then women smile and blink at the men, and the men buy him a house and put him up in the house. That is the history of mankind.
How does that work, right? Because the government just gets its taxes, and most taxpayers are men, right? Most welfare taxpayers are men, and most welfare benefits are women. So why is it okay for the woman to leech off a man, but not the government, right? And it's like, hello, don't you realize that women have had the right to vote, and the right to go to college, and the right to work and have careers? So where's this double standard coming from? You're supposed to be following an individualistic philosophy, right?
All right, well, whatever. If he's talking about the way the state is today versus objectivism, that's just bizarre.
It doesn't apply to women. And you can look at Ayn Rand herself. Even though she was adamantly against instincts and adamantly in favor of the blank slate, she'll actually slip up once in a while and contradict herself.
This is the part where we were at earlier. So she's in favor of the blank slate, right? We have no automated knowledge. We have no instincts. But she has this contradiction.
And she once said, it is masculine to deal with reality, and it is feminine to deal with men.
So is that an instinct, or is that just our nature? Now, let's take a second and think what Ayn Rand was saying there. She was defining the words masculine and feminine, okay, inside of the context of her philosophy, or whatever conversation she was having. Inside the conversation she was having, inside the statement she made, she was defining the words masculine and feminine. Masculine is to deal with reality. Feminine is to deal with men. Right? Name something feminine. Soft, polite, quiet, welcoming, inviting. Go ahead. Name something feminine. Pretty, attractive, sexy, reproductive. Name something feminine. Have I got a few feminine things there? All right? Those are to attract men. All those things are for men. Okay? All those things are to lure men. Now name something masculine. Bravery, what? Anger, strength, reason, I don't know, battle. You know, if you name a few things that are described as masculine, those things are dealing with reality. Those things are going out into the world. And if you describe things that are feminine, those things are trying to attract the attention of men and trying to make themselves attractive to men. Okay? She's defining those words. Now, I don't know why he has such a problem with it. A lot of people today, of course, have a huge problem with it. But whatever, it is what it is. They're not going to be able to undo it. Thrash as they may against reality. Women can't read maps as well as men.
And I think that's very interesting. That's actually pretty insightful. I would actually interpret that as a euphemism for it is masculine to exploit nature and manipulate nature to survive. And it is feminine to exploit men to survive.
Other than the word exploit, yeah. It's the job of women to be of value to men, to create something valuable in their life, in order to survive, yeah. And it's a job of men to create something valuable in the world in order to survive. Now, as a result of that, men are somewhat gruff because they have to go out into the world and deal with a rather unwelcoming place. And when they come home at night, angry, hungry, and tired, the woman is smiling, and she's very nice, isn't she? Because it's her job to make sure that she is comfortable and safe, and the best way to do that is make sure that he realizes that when he comes home, he's in a comfortable, safe space. He doesn't have to worry about fighting everybody like he does all day out in the world. So women are polite and beautiful. We like to look at them. They're agreeable. Okay? So I'm just giving you the nature of the thing here. Not saying what any given individual is going to do with their life. That may be different. But this is certainly the nature that has dropped us on the doorstep of reality. And we can deal with it or we don't have to deal with it. It's up to you.
Right? That's how I would interpret it. And Ayn Rand herself, if you look at her life, she married Frank O'Connor, okay? Who's a very gentle, a very soft-spoken, a very loyal, loving man. And then she went on to have an affair with Nathaniel.
Oh yeah, alright. Yeah, you can look into the affair if you want. It's very boring to me. It's like talking about Thomas Jefferson sleeping with his slaves. Every slave owner slept with their slaves. That is not, Now talk about the other 19 slave owners that we know about in Thomas Jefferson's town that slept with their slaves, and how many of them wrote the Declaration of Independence. Alright, so not saying
Philosophy, but just think twice. I just make this quick video. It's unscripted, just off the cuff. There's a lot of good things about Iron Man's philosophy, but just think twice before you support Ayn Rand, before you support objectivists. I was an objectivist for a lot of years, but basically, that's my thoughts on Ayn Rand's philosophy.
I was hoping you'd say why we should think twice. He didn't even say why at the end. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of MGTOW Beware Ayn Rand's Gynocentric philosophy of objectivism. I'm afraid that men are gynocentric, right? Everything they do revolves around women. So, would it be any stretch to say that their philosophy is gynocentric? Mr. Cropper out.